Hello friends, good afternoon and welcome to the EduSat network. Our topic of discussion is part of our ongoing series on development communication, and the specific topic for today is NGOs and their role. This is what the subject expert is going to talk about, and I would like to introduce our subject expert today, Shri K.G. Dutt, currently a visiting faculty at the Institute of Mass Communication and Media Technology at Kurukshetra University. Sir has 50 years of experience in journalism. Also, Sir has been associated with the major newspapers of the country throughout his career. And just with this brief introduction, I would like to welcome Sir to our studio and also request him to begin our today's lecture. Thank you for coming, Sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, viewers. Good morning. My today's lecture is focused on NGOs and their role in serving the society. I will discuss what is the origin of the NGOs, their history, and their role in present day society. The concept of NGOs, that means non-government organizations, is as old as society. Only the nomenclature has changed. From the days of Vedas, or since the human society took a little bit civilized shape, NGOs have always been in existence. An NGO stands where persons work together to serve the society without any governmental aid. That is the underlying idea of a non-government organization. Now, non-government organizations exist in all countries of the world and in all systems. In fact, NGOs have proved their worth even in peace and war times, in most catastrophic situations, and to alleviate the sufferings of humanity. NGOs have always played an yeoman's role. Now, NGOs basically operate in society in the field of education, literacy, culture, sports, religion, and any or every field of life which has some or the other connection with human beings. Now, NGO's role has not been really assessed by the sociologists or political pundits, because in the olden days or the days of Vedas, if you extend the concept of an NGO, it takes you back to the Guru-Shishya system of education, where a Guru used to train his disciples or his Shishyas in various disciplines of life or educational sphere or cultural sphere without expecting much returns. Secondly, they never expected any governmental patronage or patronage from the powers that be or patronage from the kingdoms. They continued their work to teach the society, to reform the society, to bring social changes into society without expecting any big returns. So, since those days, NGOs have been in existence in one form or the other. Now, since those days, this practice has been continuing amongst the civil society, where people have joined hands to help each other or to provide succor to the needy persons in society. An NGO definitely does not expect any financial aid from governmental side. But during the modern times or in other civil societies or in other democratic countries, governments have come to help to provide financial stability to NGOs, because it has been realized over the years that no government can do all works in a society. Governments are there to administer the society, but government cannot provide all types of help to stabilize a social system, to bring reforms in a social system. That is left to the NGOs. I'll take some examples. Since ages, religion has been the mainstay of society the world over. And there have been mushrooming of religious non-government organizations in every society. In many cases, to propagate religion, to provide facilities to the disciples, or to provide facilities to those who visit pilgrimages, the NGOs have stood apart. Now, if I take the case of our society in India, there are places where religious fairs are held, and in every religious fair you will see the NGOs working tirelessly to provide basic amenities to the pilgrims to visit those places. They organized medical camps, they organized langars, they organized even night stay shelters, or providing food, medical facilities, and even beddings to the pilgrims. And in every city, you can find dozens of such NGOs working for the society. Field may be any, maybe of education, maybe of religion, maybe of culture, maybe of literature, maybe of health facilities. Everywhere NGOs could be seen working. Now, take the case of big religious fairs like Amarnath Yatra, Vaishno Devi Yatra, Balaji Yatra, or Rameshwaram Yatra, or Panch Dham Yatra. Everywhere you will find NGOs working for providing bread, butter and succor as well as health facilities to the pilgrims. Sometimes it is a stupendous task. This could not be achieved by the government's efforts. A government, of course, every government does something, does a bit for providing the facilities in such situations, but they cannot fully take the responsibility of making such yatras comfortable. Similarly, during war times, NGOs have been providing major medical help to the victims. During the times of disasters, NGOs have been doing a lot for the needy people, for those in distress, without any government help or commendation. It is that the spirit amongst the human beings impels them to take up such causes. Now you take the case of the Uttarakhand disaster, which happened recently, when the yatris to the pilgrimage of Kedarnath were washed away by the waters of river Mandakini. Thousands lost their lives. Large number of NGOs, apart from the government, came to assist the administration for those, providing relief to those who were in distress, for locating the relatives of those who were suffering silently outside because their near and dear ones have lost their lives in that catastrophe. Recently, when in Jammu and Kashmir, the floods ruined the heaven on earth, you call it heaven on earth, Kashmir. A number of NGOs working for the welfare of those people who have lost their home and hearth during the floods there. Now, during the days of terrorism in Punjab, which continued for more than a decade, many NGOs working to provide relief to the victims of terrorism. So, this type of spirit in a society speaks volumes about the role of non-government organizations. Now, this is field of religion. If you take the case of education, during the starting from the days of the Mughals or the Mughal period or the British period, when the foreign rule was there in this country, which has ruled over India for more than 200 years, many NGOs worked in the field of education. Now, take the case of DAV movement, take the case of SD school education, SD education Sabha, take the case of Sikh Education Society, Christian Education Society, and so many other organizations. You see, they have done creditable work in the field of education, providing education to the needy. The Britishers did not come forward to create an adequate number of educational systems, educational institutions, to educate the Indian society. But these social organizations who worked as NGOs without expecting any help from the government, they opened a large number of institutions to serve the society, to provide cheaper education to the children of this country or the youth of this country, and to bring even cultural renaissance in a sense, because during the British period there were loud voices against the British educational system which was enforced in this country. Almost many people thought that Britishers are providing a type of education to Indian youth which could make them only babus. That impelled the Arya Samaj, a religious organization, to start the DAV Education Society. Similarly, Sanatan Dharma Education Society. The educational institutions which were opened by them have created a new awakening amongst the youth as far as education system is concerned. There are others also, the Sikh Mission Education Society, where a number of Khalsa colleges or even Muslim education societies, Christian education societies, they did a lot for imparting education to the needy in this country. It lessened the dependence of our youth on the educational system bequeathed to us by the Britishers. That way, with that type of education available to our youth and the children, new awakening was there in this country. And even today, these non-government organizations are doing commendable work in the field of education. It's a stupendous task. No government, howsoever efficient it may be, could fulfill the task of providing total education to its youth. And it is education which shapes the destinies of a nation. Had these NGOs not been there, we would have finished half the task of educating our youth. So, NGOs are an essential part of a civil society. You can't wish them away. If an egalitarian society is to be created, the help of NGOs is direly needed at every step. Now, take the case of war or take the case of epidemics which used to be prevalent in India. in the earlier days, even the major diseases which grip a nation, every nation of course from time to time, the NGOs do an yeoman's service. The Cancer Society of India in the field of cancer, the population growth drives undertaken by many NGOs, the steps taken by the NGOs against the dowry system, against child marriages, and against a large number of social events have paid dividends to society. Now, government cannot enter every arena of a human being's life. After all, if you want to create a good social system, the help of members of society are a must. You can't run a society without the help of NGOs. Well, I may not be all praise for this if we come to the other side also and see the other side of the coin also, because a number of malpractices have also entered the society through the NGOs, or the NGOs perpetuate a number of malpractices also. But in any way, their role in society cannot be lessened. Apart from religion, apart from health, the NGOs function in a big way in the field of art, culture, music and literature. Now, in the olden days, the different kings and their dynasties, they used to promote music, providing financial succor or financial help to the musicians, and many gharanas like the Banaras Gharana, Patiala Gharana, Karnataka Gharana, all these are the product of patronage by the kings of those days. The music in this country, it created new dimensions, achieved new dimensions known as classical music, Karnataka music, vocal and instrumental music, because of the patronage of the non-government organizations which were working in the field for promotion of music, art and culture in the country. The government even today provides financial help to such NGOs who are working in this field, but that is not sufficient. The government has created Natak Academy, Art and Natak Academy, and it has also created some other bodies to promote music, art and culture. But the NGOs have their own role to play. Now, the NGOs in the field of music and culture, they have spread the message of Indian music abroad in other countries also. They have acquainted the foreigners with the classical music of India, the different types of dances in this country, the different type of cultural modes and morals, and different styles of way of living in this country, that is the contribution of the NGOs. Of course, government also organizes music festivals, but the cultural troupes which visit the foreign countries of their own or with the financial help of the different state governments or the central government, they create a new awareness about what India is, what are its traditions, what is the level of music in this country, and this endears our culture to the foreigners. That is the real role of an NGO. So, to promote intercultural relations, to bring renaissance in this field by visiting foreign countries or by calling their troops in this country on different occasions of festivities. After all, how do you promote a culture or literature or music amongst the foreigners? The government's hands are always full to administer a country. This cultural growth of a nation, the social upliftment of a nation, the creation of a civil society, it all is in the hands of non-government organizations. Now, I take the latest example of an NGO, India Against Corruption, launched by veteran Anna Hazare. What did it do? It awakened almost the entire nation against the disease of corruption, which have eaten the very vitals of our democratic system so far. Anna Hazare's agitation led to a new awakening amongst the youth of this country, led to the creation of a new political party, or many youths started to dream of a new political system in this country. So, this is the role of an NGO. It is not without meaning that Mother Teresa of Sant Purn Singh of Amritsar had etched their name in the annals of history by serving the society through their NGOs. A large number of people who are engaged in the field of social service will bear it out that they drive player satisfaction by serving the society, by forming small NGOs, by taking up the cause of the downtrodden through those NGOs, by taking the cause of ailments in society through those NGOs. Now, the government cannot be expected to be present everywhere. Enthused by the role of the NGOs, almost all the big celebrities in this country belonging to the sign world have formed one NGO or the other. They do not necessarily get funds from the Government of India. They generate their own funds for the welfare of the ailing humanity, for the people in distress, for the people who need them the most. Of course, they join their heads together, collect money from the people and spend it for better causes. That is what the purpose of an NGO is. An NGO is rarely dependent on government. Of course, it should work under the supervision of the government, that is a different matter. Because during the Anna Hazare agitation, this question have cropped up vehemently. Why all the NGOs should not be put under the Lokpal? Why their functioning should not be reviewed by the Lokpal? There was a lot of opposition because the flow of funds to some NGOs from some foreign countries and the misuse of funds also by the NGOs for their own vested interests. All the gaushalas in this country, now cow protection program is in the hands of the NGOs. The government have not been able to do much about the cow protection program. There is much talk about the clean Ganga movement, but the powers that be realize it very much that the government alone cannot do it. A large number of NGOs have to step in to make Ganga clean. During the freedom struggle, the NGOs played a vital role. Now, I remind you of the movement of the Dasnami Akhadas, Naga Sadhus of India. They used to fight a guerrilla war against the Britishers and hide themselves in jungles. The contribution of Dasnami Akhadas in the freedom movement of India has not been properly written or have not been truly probed. What they did, how they hastened the freedom to this country. So such NGOs who work tirelessly for social causes, religious causes, cultural causes, without being much into the limelight, they create a new type of awakening amongst the society. And their contribution cannot be minimized. You may be knowing that large number of foreign countries, they operate in other countries through the NGOs. If they want to achieve some political aim or they want to create disaffection in a society or dissensions in a society, They will pick up one NGO or the other or create their NGOs to achieve their nefarious aims. That is there for everyone to see. That's why there is hue and cry about foreign funding of the NGOs. That's why there is a demand that the funding of the NGOs should be thoroughly probed and their functioning should be very transparent, because there is a realization that some foreign countries do not like the democratic system in a country like India to succeed. They indulge into such activities. Sorry. NGOs not only do this, NGOs are essential to promote goodwill, understanding and cohesiveness in society. Now, many countries have set up their NGOs in India, Indo-Russian Friendship Society, Indo-US Friendship Society, Indo-Malaysian Friendship Society. Some educated people in society join their heads together. Then they propagate the culture, policies and the welfare schemes in their countries, promote the interest of those countries in India. That's a very good method to promote interculture, to promote inter-country ties and to promote goodwill, understanding amongst the world community and to keep away dissensions from entering the society in all spheres. So, that work could not be done by the government alone. It is here that the NGOs have to enter in. But it is also the job of the government or the society or those who form NGOs to see that the NGOs do not astray from the real objective for which these have been formed. Now, no NGO is expected to foster misunderstanding between the communities or to create communal situation or inflagrate communal tensions, casteism or things like that. In fact, NGOs are needed for social upliftment of the people, for bringing reformation in society about the misdoings. Take the case of the dowry system, of NGOs working for the banishment of dowry in this country, or the inter-caste marriages to remove casteism, or to end excesses being committed by the so-called social leaders against some practices being adopted by the youth of today. All these could be used positively for the benefit of the citizens as a whole. Now, if the NGOs join their heads to end the caste system in this country, wonderful results could be achieved. Now, take the case of khaps working in Haryana. After all, what are khaps? Khaps are also a type of NGOs where the members of a particular clan or gotra, they join their heads together to bring a reformation in the ways of living of that khap members or that caste or that gotra, or to end social evils from that system. So that way they can achieve radical results. After all, man is a social being. You cannot live an isolated life without society. Therefore, NGOs working in each and every field need to be patronized, but at the same time, it is needed their activities are minutely scrutinized so that none of them indulges into anti-social activities. Now, because of the criticism in society about the functioning of the NGOs, especially after the Anna Hazare agitation, there was a petition in the Supreme Court. Somebody filed a PIL, and the Supreme Court asked the CBI to go into the functioning of the NGOs in this country. The facts which was presented to the Supreme Court by the CBI are little bit startling, and I would just read something out of the report of that report by the CBI submitted to the Supreme Court of India. That report says that there are about 22 lakh NGOs working in 27 states in India. 22 lakhs. Imagine this number. You see, in many democratic countries or in communist regimes or in Sheikhdom, such a large number of NGOs are not allowed to function. But here 22 lakhs are functioning. It is another startling fact that these NGOs, only 10% of them file their regular returns, because anybody can get an NGO registered if its membership is about 10. It is registered with the Registrar of Societies in India. The CBI report says that only 10% of them, they file yearly reports with the income tax, because it has been made incumbent on these NGOs to file their annual returns. It is another interesting fact that none of the NGOs in the Union Territories file regular returns. Another fact is that 84,753 NGOs working in Punjab, 52,394 in Himachal Pradesh, and 3,981 in Chandigarh. None of them have filed annual returns. Only NGOs, about number of 147 NGOs working in Jammu and Kashmir, they have been filing their annual returns. You see, in Karnataka, there are about 62,000 NGOs. They file their annual report, provide annual information only once in 5 years. Now, UP had the largest number of NGOs functioning there, over 5.48 lakhs, and only 10% of them file their annual returns. That is the state of affairs in this country. Similar is the state all over the country. The Supreme Court has asked the CBI to further probe this matter and to bring out the facts relating to the functioning of the NGOs in India, whether the funds which they collect are being utilized properly or swindled, because the reports about the swindling of funds by the NGOs working in the cultural or literary fields or working as religious organizations are very glaring, and the government has not so far devised any proper mechanism where the swindling of funds by these organizations could be checked. It is often alleged that some NGOs or their leaders or those who run it, they divert the funds for their own personal uses. This is something, this is a big malpractice in a country, democratic country like India, where you are struggling to strengthen your democratic roots. where the nation is struggling to create a new social order. Because it's often said that if you don't have a good profession or a vocation to pursue, form an NGO, get money from all quarters including the government, then fudge the record showing the utility of those funds and enjoy life. This has been the trend in most of the cases. Otherwise, why only 10% of the 22 lakh NGOs working in this country should file their returns? What stops all of them to file their returns gracefully every year? There must be some bunglings here or there. That's why they avoid it. But NGOs hold lot of influence in a democratic system. And if their funding by the foreign countries or by the anti-social elements is allowed, this creates a very queer situation in a democratic system. The government should not hesitate to bring legislation to this impact, that the functioning of an NGO should be made transparent. Anybody, any member of society could see the record of an NGO as far as the funding is concerned. After all, why there should be any hidden activity about it? Things once hidden create enormous situations. Such situations should not be allowed, especially in the field of service organizations. There are professional NGOs also. There are NGOs working in the armed forces of this country, like the ex-servicemen welfare society, serving personnel, army men wives society. All these are doing a wonderful job. Why the transparency which is being maintained in the army for running such activities should not be extended to other NGOs in society? Because it will create more confidence amongst the members who contribute money for successfully running these NGOs, and to convey a good message for creating an egalitarian civil society. Thank you very much. This is all I have to say about this functioning of NGOs and their origin in India. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this very interesting explanation to talk about NGOs, what are their various roles, their origin, history that sir has talked about, and their relevance in present day society. So just a slight query from my side.
Yes, please.
For instance, I want to open an NGO which has to do with the child rights or perhaps sanitation. Is it an easy process? Can I open an NGO?
It is a very easy process. You have to collect only 10 members.
Okay.
You can go to the registrar of societies of India, and some fee you have to pay for getting a society registered. After that, you can start your functioning. Start functioning in that in that field.
Okay. Sir, what about funds? Because I may not have my own personal funds to run this.
In fact, the funds are always in NGO. The funds are always jointly collected by the members.
Okay.
And when you achieve a particular level, supposing you are working in the field of child welfare, or in the field of eye care, or in the field of cancer eradication, the government of India provides you funds also.
Right. Okay.
In the field of culture and music and literature, the government provides enough funds to the NGOs for running their activities.
Right. But initially, my own team will have to pool the money.
You pool the money and work for achieving the aim. It should look so to the society, because more and more members only will come then.
Yes. Absolutely true. And is there an age limit at which somebody can?
No. There is no age limit for getting a society registered, or getting an NGO registered.
Right.
No age limit.
So that comes as a great deal of information for our viewers, that it is possible, if you have a cause in mind, then it is possible to start an NGO with a minimum of 10 members.
Yes, miss. All the celebrities in this country, all the big wigs in this country, they have their own NGOs.
Absolutely.
It provides you publicity also, it provides you satisfaction also, it provides you a chance to serve the society.
Definitely with a very noble purpose in mind.
Very noble purpose.
So with this we bring our lecture to a close, but of course not without thanking sir for his valuable contribution today. Thank you so much, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you viewers for listening to me so patiently. Thank you.
And thank you friends for watching. Have a great day.
Thank you.